And I will share my screen. So the point of this call is really to explain this beautiful application that DappLion built. This is the token bonding curve app. Yeah, that's him right here. Look, that's him. Oh my God, what a superstar, right? So I'm just going to go through the different variables, but it's important to note that all of this is really best visualized alongside this beautiful HackMD power invariant bonding curve definitions. You can see the website up here. So it kind of goes through in detail what the system is supposed to do. But the most important part are these parameters that we agreed to start with, and the hatch sale equations, which is what this website actually plays with. So the first variable we'll start with is actually over here. We'll call it D naught. This is the amount of money raised in the hatch. So this is R naught, which is the supply reserve, or sorry, the reserve pool of the XDAI plus the funding pool of XDAI that the Commons gets to spend to help charities, right? So D naught times theta, which is 0.35 in this case, is how much goes to the funding pool. That's the amount that's dedicated towards helping the rainforest in whatever the Commons is doing. And then 1 minus theta, 0.35, times D naught is how much goes into the token bonding curve. And that actually will mint tokens. And that is the amount of money that's backing the tokens that are minted. P0, which again, don't be shy to follow along here. P0 is the price of the tokens with like the price of the tokens that the person who sent money in actually sees. So it's not the price of the token according to the bonding curve. It's literally something we set in advance. P0 and P1 can actually be set in advance. That's the crazy thing, right? So, oh, weird. I need a hard refresh. This isn't right. There we go. We had some updates. So P0 is something we set in advance. P1 is something we set in advance. And theta is something and 6, kappa. These are things we play with in advance. D naught is something we usually can't control, right? We don't know how many people will send how much money to the thing. But no matter what this is, we can actually, it's frozen.
Live demo.
Yeah, live demo. This is why live demos suck, right?
So, sorry, can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
So by choosing P1, you are choosing the amount of money that you want to raise before your curve is hatched?
No.
No. I just don't understand how you can choose all these different parameters and have a curve and not have those parameters affect like that.
That's the thing. We build the curve around the parameters.
Right. Oh, okay.
So the actual curve isn't determined until you figure out how much hash you have.
Mm-hmm. So,
I mean, it's crazy. If we only have, oh, okay. Oh man, dude, there's a bug in this React app. Anytime I try to change D naught, it fails. Put an open an issue. What a bastard. What a punk. That's okay. That's why he's not coming with us to Odyssey. Let's see. Oh, maybe I'll try this. Oh, okay, it works if I do this. Oh my God, we'll get there eventually. But you
200 million.
Yeah, dude, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Let me see what happens in the console log. This was supposed to be a live demo, but here I am. This is Hackathon Classic, right? I see nothing in the console. Just freezes. But it could be a Brave thing. But look, I mean, it's interesting, right? P1 doesn't change. We only raised 4,000. Okay, fine, we only raised 4,000.
Mm-hmm.
What changes is the curve shape, like changes drastically. And also there's this thing called an invariant, which I'm going to get to right now. So let's bring this back. Oh, look, it's frozen again. Let's see what this says. Yeah, there's nothing in the console log. I'll make the issue after this stop line. So now we have kappa, and kappa kind of goes to this invariant thing, which maybe I'll just close this. Yeah. So we have this thing that we call the invariant. This is S to the K over R, right?
S to the kappa?
Yeah, S to the kappa over R. And kappa kind of determines the shape of the curve. And this invariant changes based off of how much we raise. So if the hatcher raises more, then the invariant goes down, I believe. Let's see. No, it goes up. And the invariant goes up. If we raise less, then the invariant goes down. And it's just some crazy random number as far as I can tell. So yeah, so kappa is basically what power the S is to.
Mm-hmm.
Theta is the percentage of the initial raise that goes to the funding curve. D0 is the amount that's actually raised in the hatch. P0 is the price that people see. So if this will issue, 3 million tokens. So that's that. Or sorry, 300 million tokens because they raised this much. But it's important to note that P0 has no meaning after the hatch sale. Mm-hmm. So for most prices, R0 and S0 would generate P0, but here R0 and S0 generate something else that's not this P0. So maybe we need to get a better naming system for it. Okay, so that's that. Next, we have P1. This is the price at the end of the sale, or at the end of the hatch. This is the initial price. And then when we start messing with these numbers over here, this changes this stuff. So, but for now, we'll just keep it like this. So the price data, P1 always stays the same. PR start is the price at the amount at the place you are in the curve. Mm-hmm. So let's just go to this plot reserve times. This is basically like how big do we want the reserve spectrum right here to be. So if we do 20, you can see this is is the reserve goes 20x, right? If the reserve goes 1, this is basically the hatch curve. That's all it is. But 6 is good. This is 6x the reserve. So what's the price do? You're basically just choosing how big the chart is. Mm-hmm. Now R start is where you are on the curve. So if it's at 100, then you're right at the hatch sale price. If you're at 110, 10%, the reserve is 10% larger than R0. So basically 10% of R0 amount of funds came in here. And that's not really shown anywhere other than R start. It just shows you the price at this point. But the way to figure out how much that is would be to kind of go like this, 10%. So this is saying, hey, we're going to put 10% of the reserve into the thing. And this says, well, if we do that, we're buying this many die at an average price of 41 cents. So we're sending in 195,000 die. We're getting 4.8 million tokens. We're paying an average price of 4.1 cents, and the price for the next person to buy is 4.2 cents.
Cool.
And then, okay, so now we know this, we have all this data, we can go to the next part, and now the next person is going to buy just 1%. Well, okay, so their price at the start was 4.2 cents. Their average price is 4.2 cents. They get this many tokens. They get that many tokens. They spent that much die. And so on. So now, okay, this is where we are. Oh my God, big whale, right? Actually, how about this? It's big sell-off, you know? So now we're going back down on the curve. We'll actually end up below the hatch sale price, which you can see right here. It's 3.6. This would be a burning function. Buy data becomes sell data. And there we go. Now, there's something. Well, do you have any questions, Will?
I have a few. So one of the questions is, so these people who hatched, they have all these tokens. So like, what is the minimum price that it can get to? Really, how come it can drop below P1?
It can only drop below P1 if the DAO has spent money, and there's this whole vesting thing, right? So I think that we will end up in here we have curve parameters, and we're saying that the DAO only ever spends $300,000. Sorry, I'm going to go halfway here. Where is it? Range price for a price curve that needs to be considered. So we're saying that the commons will only ever spend $300,000 in any of our scenarios.
Okay.
So we're staying in like a small range. But this has to change because actually there was a bug earlier that we found. Okay. So if we go back to this, any other questions?
Well, I have some questions more not about this, but I kind of get this first, but it was cool, like being able to like visualize how much, because like a user would say, right, I want to buy it. But they wouldn't really say by percentage, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah, this is definitely not the UX. This is this is just something that we can build off of.
I have more questions about like starting up a curve, like as a group of people, how we start up a curve. When I want to create a crowdfunding campaign, I start a curve, and surely I'm saying I want to get to this amount of die in my funding pool before the curve is hatched. It seems like that's not the case.
Yeah, this is more of a narrative question, but in the end, you'll want to have like some minimum amount of D naught. Otherwise, all the money goes back to the people who put it in. Also, it's not an app. It shouldn't be considered an open crowdfunding campaign. It needs to be something that's closed, and you get experts that know about the topic because they'll
whitelisted. That's the whitelisting part, right?
Yeah, they'll have a lot of governance, and the thing won't be a success if you get a bunch of randos in there. You need people who know how to pick good projects. Now, I do want to just go to this a little bit more because there's something really interesting that we have to deal with, and that's this supply curve. This supply curve looks completely different than every other supply versus price curve I've ever seen in any token bonding curve talk. It's always shaped more like this, which is our reserve versus price curve. And so Jeff has been researching why the hell this is. And I'm excited. Do you want to see this, or we can go to?
Yeah, no, let's go back to that. So I've been working on as okay, so 100. Let's say we're buying in 10% increments, or even 100, just so we can see it clearly.
Mhm.
So, so the first investor is putting in the equivalent to the whole initial reserve, which I mean is unrealistic, but it's just easier to visualize on here. So he puts in 100% of the reserve, which is what is it again? 2 million,
Yeah.
1.95 million, almost 2 million DAI. So at a lower point in the curve, tokens cost less. So he is getting more tokens for his investment. And therefore the price increases further because he's buying more tokens. Now let's say another investor comes along and purchases that amount again, slightly infeasible, someone putting in 1.95 million DAI. But because the slope is steeper here, that same amount of money is getting him less tokens.
Yeah.
And therefore the price of the price that it increases by is even less, because he's getting fewer tokens for the same investment. And therefore the increase in price after that investment is less than the last investor.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone comes along again and purchases the same amount, again, same amount of money, but tokens are more expensive now. So the number of tokens he gets is even less. And therefore the price of the tokens for the next buyer is less after each subsequent buyer.
So here we have, there's the first person gets 35 million tokens, 36 million tokens. Second person gets 23. Third person gets 17. Okay, so, and that's the what we expect. But why is our curve different than other people's curves?
So I guess the part that I'm curious about is seeing one of their curves in action. I don't know of anybody who has like this working functionality, except maybe Band. And their demo is not live. I asked for their demo recording, but I guess Devin's probably gone to bed now, and I didn't see it posted in any of the meetup groups, so I wasn't able to rewatch. But I mean, if we're looking at, I don't think anyone has gone to like this level of sophistication in their calculations where they're looking at, you know, the price slippage. They're looking at, you know, when you're buying, because we think of buying like as an event, like as at a point, right?
Yeah.
And we think we're buying at a point, but actually you're buying a range, because you're buying that range of tokens from whatever the initial amount is before you purchase to the end amount after you purchase. And the price increase will be in relative to how many tokens were purchased. And if the tokens are more, then for the same investment, you will get fewer tokens, and therefore the price increase will be less after each subsequent buyer for the same amount. But we're like, I feel like in the narrative version, we're looking at it like a point, right? I want to buy here, but you're not actually buying there. You're buying this range. So you're actually like calculating this slippage price, and that is the amount that, right. So as the token curve gets steeper, the price of each individual token goes up, and therefore the amount of tokens you get overall is decreased.
Yeah, but why is everyone else's curve shaped differently? Like, that's the big question right now.
Well, I mean, they're all shaped how we think, you know. Okay, so if you look at it as a log curve, so it's all your beautiful work though.
Sorry, that graph that we're talking about, right? That was price on the y-axis, and then tokens on the
supply of tokens. Yeah, total supply. So if we are looking at this, so this is the typical curve that we think from a narrative perspective. Can you see that okay?
Yeah.
A little bit. So we kind of think, you know, if we're looking at it here, you know, at one buy price, we're saying we don't want rapid speculation to take over. So we're kind of setting this not necessarily an asymptote, but at least a decreasing rate. So let's. What if we were to run through the same? So let's call this 0. This is price, and this is supply. And if this is P0, then this is.
Let's just do 1s and 2s. Like this is so. This is 1 and 1.
Okay. And then so the.
I mean, this is like actual one, like $1, and then this is it, one token.
I'm curious to look at this the same way that you're looking at it, though, right? So you're purchasing this window of tokens. You're not purchasing at this point. You're purchasing this window, right? So call this that 100% of reserve. So you're doubling the amount that is currently in supply. So that compared to so actually, yeah, this is interesting. So if we bought this amount of money, then that same amount of money done again would actually get us a larger amount of the supply.
Yeah, I think. Well, and I think it's not really on the scale, but.
No.
It's hard to see.
But I mean, because so the price per token is decreasing, so the same amount of money, would get you a higher number of tokens in this curve. And if you get a higher number of tokens, that pushes you further up the supply.
Yeah.
So in a token buying curve, surely as we go up the curve, the amount of tokens I get for the same amount of money should decrease. No?
Well, the price of the token changes, and also you want, like, the goal is that as you go further up the curve, you want a little bit of resistance. And so everyone draws their curve like this, but our curve is shaped differently. And this is like the big question that I want to understand is like, why? Why is everyone else's curve shaped like this and our curve? When we do the math and it all works out.
I mean, it seems to me that on that curve there's a certain gradient at the start where buying tokens makes the price of tokens go up more. And as we go along in time or in amount of tokens in the supply, the amount that the price of tokens changes in that curve gets less. It changes less each time. Whereas we're saying every time we go along and buy more tokens, the price of token increases. And in fact, the increase in the price in token increases. If I buy 1 token at the start, it increases by a certain amount. If I buy 1 token after we've bought 10, it should increase by more.
That's what you would think, right?
Well, that's what we want, definitely.
Well, we want it to slow down. We want it to break.
Oh, we want it to break.
Yeah, we want it to break. We want it to act like this looks. But what's funny is it does act like that.
But the price per token is going down. So the same amount of money is more tokens. So the dollar per token is actually going down in this curve.
Dollar per token is still always going up, but it's the rate.
Yes, the rate
per token is going
price.
Because the dollar per token is always going up, right? So it's still going up. So on that dimension, it's still going up. But the rate that it's going up is decreasing constantly. And for us, this is the crazy thing. I swear, when you just do the numbers and you plot some points, the rate is still going down on ours. It doesn't make any sense. I swear to God, it doesn't make any sense.
You're putting the same amount of money, you're getting more tokens on this curve. Same amount of money, more tokens. Therefore, each token costs less than the last time.
No. Token never costs less. It always costs more. But it's like, so if, on this curve, if I buy at the start, the price that my token increases, like this range, I buy 10 tokens, token at the start costs X amount, token 10 costs quite a lot because the gradient's pretty high. Like
maybe this supply line is different. Maybe the supply line for us is like you would have to subtract, you know, from here to here. No, that doesn't work. Never mind.
Supply is equal to.
Well, I was thinking like you could have a curve where it's like this is just like at any point in time, if you if the price is here, you get this many tokens, 0 to this, but that's not true. It's this many tokens. I don't know.
I'm still blown away. You put in the same amount of money each time, but each time you're getting more tokens on this curve. Because on this curve, on the quadratic curve, you're getting less each time.
Yeah.
On this curve, you're getting more each time.
But the price of the token is going up because this is the price of the token. So the price went up, you know, like from here to there.
This is essentially the conundrum we're trying to solve.
Yeah,
exactly. The price is going up on here, but when you invest the same amount of money, you're getting more tokens on this curve and you're getting less tokens on the quadratic, which is kind of the opposite of what we would expect. How are we putting in the same amount of money and getting more tokens on this curve, putting in the same amount of money and getting less tokens on the quadratic, even though the price is increasing? I have a feeling it may have something to do with like that we're looking at a range instead of a point. When you look at a point, yeah, you put in $1 here, it's going to cost less. You put in $1 here, it's going to cost more. But when you look at it as like the number of tokens that you're getting, you're actually getting less each time on a quadratic. You're getting more each time on a log.
Maybe I think we need a. There's got to be banned or someone has to have this. But I mean, their code is open source, right? The demo might not be, but I bet they have equations we can look at.
I bet they do, but they're probably derived completely.
It seems to me that so what we're mapping is price on the left is price per token.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense for us to say the amount that we spend. You know, like that's wrong, right? We're saying we spend 100 grand. That doesn't affect. You can't go up 100 grand on the price per token.
That is true.
On the Y. You see?
That is true. We'd have to look at the reserve curve as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we do is we calculate how much, if we do this, if we have 100 grand, how many tokens can we buy? And then we find how much the X goes up and then see where the price goes to.
That's right. That's right. I think because that's true. Because we are putting in reserve and we're looking at the price from that reserve.
So maybe that's what we're doing. Maybe we are graphing on our y-axis. We're graphing the actual price that someone spends.
Well, that's what we're doing, and I would imagine that this curve for the reserve that probably didn't show up. Actually, for the reserve, it looks the same.
Mm-hmm.
That's oh yeah.
For both for our curve and their curve, for sure this is the same. But for some reason, for their curve, the supply is like this, and for our curve, the supply is like this.
I think we're mapping different things on the y-axis.
No, we're mapping price per token.
So yeah, you're right though. I guess you don't put 100% into the price. I'm just going off of this here,
yeah,
where we are playing with the reserve, We're seeing the price adjust like that. Is that the proper? So we're putting in 100% of the reserve, and we're starting at 100%. Price goes up by that.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I'm telling you, it's crazy. I don't understand it. I think we need to take a deep dive into what they're doing, what these people are doing with this, and it'd be so nice to find someone's stuff that we could iterate on. But anyway, I didn't mean for this video to be so long. So, did you have any other questions about this?
No, no.